BT this morning, after he gives his little introduction, is going to portray Henderson Palmer. And during the narration, it'll become clear to you that Henderson Palmer was the first circuit rider pastor of the Palestine Circuit. And I'm going to portray Rolin Box. And Rolin Box was the layperson who actually helped organize the First Methodist Society, First Methodist congregation in Anderson County, Palestine, down near Fort Houston. Okay.
Methodism in Anderson County and Palestine owes a great debt to Mr. Rolin Box. Mr. Box was a Christian citizen. He had a wife and 6 children. They lived south of Palestine as we know it today on the east margin of the Trinity River below what was known then as Comanche Crossing. They were here in 1836. Sometime during that year, Mr. Box formed a Methodist society in his home. Mr. Box had received much inspiration from a Methodist preacher in East Texas named Henry Stevenson. Stevenson began his preaching in Missouri and Mississippi, and he came here to Texas to retire in 1835. He had preached in Texas in some earlier years, and Stevenson had encouraged Mr. Box to organize for Methodism and to bring it to this area. It was noted at the East Texas Conference session held at St. Augustine that in 1840, John Wilson, a supply preacher on the Crockett Mission, organized a class society of Methodists near where the city of Palestine stands, in the house of Rolin Box. Well, when the county of Anderson was created, Palestine was selected as the county seat, and Methodists moved to the new town. Henderson D. Palmer was appointed to the First Palestine Circuit in December 1847. These were boom years for Methodism as it spread the gospel across the United States, literally from sea to shining sea. This era in religious life is described by church historians as the Second Great Awakening. It was through revivals and camp meetings that persons were brought to conversion and new life through Jesus Christ. Circuit riding preachers and lay preachers organized many new congregations. Annual conferences under newly elected Methodist bishops provided the mechanism for admitting and ordaining clergy, for appointing pastors to churches, and then supplying them with mutual support. Local churches and classes, or Methodist societies as they were called, could spring up wherever a few women and men were gathered under the direction of a class leader. They were visited regularly by the circuit preacher, one who had a circuit of preaching placed under his care, and it was this system that effectively served the needs of city, town, village, or frontier outpost. These churches were able to spread the gospel wherever people settled. These years were also marked by the spread of the Sunday school movement in the United States. It was by 1835 that Sunday schools were encouraged in every place where they could be started and maintained. The Sunday school became the principal source of prospective members for the churches, as well as the means of incorporating new members. Methodism was beginning new colleges and secondary schools to educate pastors and congregation members. The Methodist Book Concern, which was organized in 1789, was the first church publishing house here in America. By 1841, the Methodist Church in the United States had started mission societies to reach out in mission across the United States and literally around the world in the name of Jesus Christ. This period of time is when the Palestine-Anderson County area was introduced to Methodism. It was a fruitful, exciting period of time for Methodist Christians here in the United States. Can you imagine the thrill and excitement of Rolin Box when he met Henderson Palmer to establish the first official Palestine Circuit? The Box family worked for 11 years to grow and develop the Methodist Church's ministry for the people in Anderson County and Palestine.
Amazing grace, Pastor Palmer. We're so glad to meet you and have you as our new pastor. By the way, my wife's name is Mary Grace, so that song is especially important to me. I've really been influenced by Henry Stevenson. I came to accept the love of God through Jesus Christ in a revival meeting through Henry Stevenson's leadership. And he speaks so very highly of you. I have also been very impressed by the Methodist Circus Rider ministry. Tell me more about that.
Well, Rolin, my friend, that's how we're moving the Methodist Church to the West. We take our Bibles, we take the sermons that Mr. Wesley gave us all the way from England, and we ride from place to place. Most of us have about 4 to 6 churches, so we're only in town about once a month. Sometimes we can put 2 churches together and make it a charge. I'm going to try and do that with Crockett just down the road. I pray the Lord will help me out in this work. Anyway, most of us now are between the ages of 18 and 35. I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm one of the older preachers. We find that 15 years or so, we try to settle down and locate in one place, so most of us are unmarried until then, but when a pastor marries or gets engaged, he feels the need to settle down just a little bit. Actually, Bishop Asbury, Bishop Cope, and Mr. Wesley started all of this back in 1784 at the Christmas conference in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where the Methodist Episcopal Church was established. Happened in Lovely Lane Church in Baltimore, Maryland. That's our mother church. And if you're ever out to Baltimore, you should see it. It's quite beautiful.
Thank you for that information, Pastor Palmer. And we look forward, very forward, to the worship meeting in my home tomorrow and your preaching and your inspiration for our small congregation. By the way, what will you be preaching on?
I'm going to be preaching on the true worship of God, Hebrews 12:25, to give thanks by which we offer to God acceptable worship with reverence and awe. That's true worship.
Great. I know everyone in the congregation will be inspired for it, and I look forward to it myself. I will introduce you, and we'll have worship, and then we'll go outside on our front lawn, and we'll have lunch right there on the front lawn. Our ladies here in the Palestine area are great cooks, and we are chicken-eating Methodist.
It must have happened something like that when those 2 men met, when Methodists began ministry here in Palestine. Today, you can say, we were there.
Okay, we have an interview with actors here today. BT, why don't you introduce yourself for the group here?
Okay, my name is B.T. Williamson. I'm assistant to the bishop for the Texas Annual Conference. Bruce and I have been friends for over 40 years, and he invited me to come today and share in the historic celebrations for our First United Methodist Church in Palestine.
Great.
And in preparation for that, I went back and read a book called The Methodist Excitement in Texas, and got familiar with the early days of Methodism's presence here when it was a mission outpost from Mississippi, and discovered the names like Henry Stevenson and Rolin Box and many other pastors who helped to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ through the Methodist movement in this part of Anderson County. Pleasure to be here today.
Thanks. Reverend Hay, why don't you introduce yourself and explain how you prepared for this?
Bruce Hay, Senior Pastor of First United Methodist Church here in Palestine. As BT said, we've been friends for many, many years. I didn't realize it was over 40, but it's been a long time. I also read some of the Methodist history of this congregation and of this conference, and took those together and prepared the script, so to speak, in consultation with our anniversary committee, and so that's how I came up with the material.
Great. I've heard that a lot of people spell your name R-O-L-A-N-D, but after a lot of research, I found out that you spell it R-O-L-I-N. So we now know that it's Rolin rather than Roland.
Rolin, is that official?
That is official.
Okay.
Okay.
It's different in different history books.
It is. Thanks to both of you for appearing today.
A great day. Congratulations.
Okay.